ARPA Advisory Committee. We are going to be filmed, I don't think we're gonna be broadcast live, right, recorded broadcast later. And we have, Susan Rain, Chris Monroe, Chris Borrego, Heather Monroe, and maybe Mike Foley with us, but nope, I keep hearing doors, and it's not Mike, so hopefully he'll surprise us. It's 6:35, we'll get started, we're gonna open the meeting. Our first order of business, we have approval of minutes. So I sent out last night, I believe, the January 5th, March 3rd, and March 8th. January 27th was that really, really long meeting, so those ones are not ready yet. Has everyone here had a chance to look at those other 3 sets of minutes?
Yes.
KP?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any questions or changes to any of those minutes?
No.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the January 5th, March 3rd, and March 8th minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Susan, a second by KP. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Alright, so that passes.
Yes.
Alright, so let's see, open session, we have no one here, other than some boxes, but no people. Updates and new info related to ARPA funds. Do you have any changes or anything else to update us on, David?
No.
Okay, excellent. Alright, so meeting with applicants and discussion on following projects and amounts. At the last meeting, we had discussed the higher tier projects, the ones we wanted to go over and had questions for. David is here to help us with some of the answers. I did have an opportunity to talk to Katie, and she was able to send me an email. Unfortunately, I wasn't thinking enough in advance to be able to post a select board meeting, because if Katie was here, then we'd have a 3 of us quorum. And we'd have to post that. So I did talk to her, and I have an email from her to read when we get to her section that responds to the questions we had for her. What I'd like to do is kind of go down these each. I know we talked about a bunch of these last time, but people may have some more questions. KP wasn't here, so he might have some questions. I listed them out on the agenda in the order of the ranking, so highest to lowest, and we did the first tier, or the top tier, and then the second tier we said we would deal with at a later time. We want to get through these ones first. So the first item we have here is the Public Safety and Town Hall Feasibility Study. Are there any, oh, Mike, you're here!
Sorry I'm late.
Yay!
Meetings go long for the win.
That's okay. Mike entered at 6:37 when, for you people do minutes later. So we just started, Mike, so the first item here is the Public Safety and Town Feasibility Study for $65,500. Do we have any questions for David or any conversation or discussion we want to have on this in general? We didn't have much last time. KP, do you have, let's start with you, do you have any thoughts or questions you'd like to bring up?
Yeah, I have thoughts. I don't want to pay it. I don't think we need it. I don't think it's high on the priority list for the money we have right now. I think forthcoming money can pay for it. To do the feasibility study for, what was it?
65.5.
65.5 would take a lot of money out of the pot for projects that I think are more pending.
That was the highest ranked.
Yes, ma'am. That was when you added everyone's scores together, it was 84.
Okay.
And the feasibility study gets us what? What does it do for us?
If it's done properly, it gives you a working budget to and conceptual design for the project you have in mind. So you know what it looks like, you know how it functions, and you know how much it's going to cost to not only build the property but also to for maintenance.
And how long does it take to do this study?
I've done one similar on 7 buildings. It took about 6 months to do.
The 7 buildings.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is 1 building.
And what's the reality? What's the reality that we get this project funded in the next 5 years?
Your best bet is to go for a USDA loan, which is 40 years payment at 2% interest. You can't prepay or you can't pay down, but you can't beat rates like that in this environment.
Can we pay for the study out of that loan that we
Yes, you may.
secure?
Yep. Need a town meeting vote to do so.
can we pursue the loan without the study?
Yes. It's not advisable.
Yeah, my next question would be, would the loan be approved without the study? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, somebody at somewhere along the chain of communication is going to say, you know, so what are you gonna build? Is it one
Right.
story, 2 story? Is it gonna be
Right.
how many square feet? What is, what are its functions, et cetera?
Mm-hmm.
You have to have some sort of conceptual plan to begin.
We scored that an 84 out of what was the maximum number, if everyone had voted for a 3.
So what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
many
6,
of us
7,
are there?
7, 14, 21, 21 times 5, so what, 105?
Yep, okay,
So 84 out of 105.
yeah. I think that speaks for itself.
How much is the study?
65.5.
How good is the study for?
Sorry?
How long, is that what you're asking?
What's the life cycle of the study? If we do a study now and then the project doesn't get started in 5 years, are we gonna need to do another study?
Probably need to update the study. You don't need to start from scratch.
So we wanna pay for a study that we have no timeline for when we can do the project, basically is what we're saying.
If,
Well, I don't think that's the case. I think we would do the study, it would take a few months, from the sounds of things, and then at that point, the warrant article would be put on the warrant for the next town meeting, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be the procedure? After we had a public hearing and presented all the renderings and did all that
Yeah, you've gotta
stuff?
jump through a procurement hoop to get your design team in place, but
Okay,
you know, that takes a month.
okay.
How close do we actually get to a design from the feasibility study? What's the actual deliverable?
Actual deliverable will be a survey of the parcels owned by the town that are suitable for that function. I only know of one parcel in the center of town, but there could be others. You're interested in looking at the existing structure down by Jan's, is it?
mhm,
Alright, so an analysis of that in terms of septage and other infrastructure issues, condition of the building, appraisal, then conceptual designs as to what the things might look like in terms of functionality, flow, communications, station facilities, things like that.
and essentially, once we had this, we could then take this to USDA and say, we're looking to apply for a loan, and here's the backup for our project.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're serious.
USDA likes to be the lender of last resort, so you may talk to your chief financial advisor over at Unibank to find out if this is the best way to go. But I think this town probably, given the size of the town, size of the budget, and the prospective cost of a public safety complex that combines fire and police and possibly dispatch as well. You know, USDA should be interested in you with your credit rating of a AA+.
Any more questions on this project? My thought is we move through all of these projects in case anything changes anyone's mind, and then we come back and we'll go down the list and vote. That
Okay.
works for everyone.
Okay.
Doesn't work for me. Why would we vote on just these projects when we have stacks of projects? Why are we not looking at the congregate of projects to figure out which ones we pay, how much that's gonna cost, how much it's not gonna cost.
So when we met last week, what the conversation ended up being is that we currently have 1.4 million and some change that we have essentially to go shopping with, so to speak. And the idea was we would cover the projects first in the highest ranking. So we all took an opportunity to look at projects. These are the projects that are ranked. These are the ones, and in the order of where they ranked in line. And we would start with the top notch of them. These are the ones that, you know, rank the highest. Get through those, and then go back if we have funds left over after we've decided what stays in, what comes out of those, go on to the next ones. The idea being is the rankings were an indication cumulatively of, you know, what essentially where the important projects were. Not to say one project is more important or less important to another in comparison to, like, you know, when you're talking about a business versus a town, but more so what everyone said, okay, this is our top priority. So when we prioritize these are the ones we were going through, and that's the order. So the idea for tonight was to go through these, get some more answers to some of the questions, and then go through, we wanted to get at least some initial projects over to the select board to start funding. Now, if we go through this and we find we have more questions, or, you know, maybe there's only one or two we want to move forward with, and then we want to keep going with the other ones, I think that's perfectly fine. I just, you know, as we have this outlined, I'd like to go through each of these projects, because we did have follow-up questions to see where we're at, and then we can come back and see if we want to send any of these to the select board at the time being, if we want to hold, or have further discussion if we need to.
Okay.
Alright?
And are these all public projects?
The top list, I believe they are. So they're on the agenda. They are Public Safety Town Hall Feasibility Study, followed by the Route 68 Improvement Easements, Communications, which is the portable radios, Crack Ceiling Pinecrest, Lombard Road Reconstruction, Agri Metal Blower, Ragged Hill Road Habitat for Humanity, NCM Home Build, Town of Hubbinston Essential Employee Premium Pay, Funds for Fire Department Ambulance, Funds for Fire Department Fire Truck, and Electronic Sign.
Okay.
Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna move on to the next project. We'll continue down our list, and then we can have further discussion. Okay? So the next one we had was the Route 68 easements, improvement easements. So we had some follow-up questions for David on this one, and David did get back to us with a memo. Do you have one down there, Mike? You do. Okay, with this memo, so one of our questions was, you know, we had appropriated money at June and October special town meetings, so we wanted to know, you know, how much that was and what it went towards, as well as what the actual costs were, cause at this point we've paid for someone to come in and do the appraisals, those appraisals have been done, and we should know approximately what the max is, at least of what we're gonna have to pay out for the value of those appraisals. So we do have that here, so David, for anyone at home who's listening to us, so we have a cost, so it's $44,600 for the 47 appraisals, review appraisals, and just compensation reports, so that was the vendor we hired to be able to come in and do the work, to be able to work with the town residents on their properties. Payment for temporary permanent easements is up to $45,400, so that's the max
That's the max.
that we'd have to pay out, but some properties are coming back in with donations.
Yep.
Amounts of payments range from $100 to $2,700 per easement. June annual town meeting appropriated $15,000, and special was $30,000, but these funds were exhausted for engineering. See that, I guess that part, just to pause for a second, that's what I was confused about, cause I thought when we were appropriating the funds, I thought we were appropriating the funds for the purposes of the appraisal process.
The language of the articles in both the June and the October town meetings was, gave the authority to acquire easements, temporary easements and permanent easements for the project, and also appropriate money for the engineering for it, so that's so those two articles had two functions, the authorization for the project and the other was to appropriate money.
Okay, so the intent of that $45,000 was for the engineering piece?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like it was for both, but it ended up being spent on one, so it was just a bad guess as to what it was gonna cost, is what
Yeah.
it sounds like to me.
So my application says $89,150 on it. What should that number really be?
Well, we won't know that for another 30 days, because we've issued the offers to the butters, the affected residents, and it's up to them to either donate the land, which would, every donation reduces the amount.
So this 89,150 is still a good starting point?
It's the
I would
max.
say the 44, 600 is definite. And I would say that the lion's share of the 45,400 is a good number, but I won't know that for another 30 days.
I think the max though would be 90,000, not 89,150, cause if you add the 44,600 with the 45,400, you're looking at 90.
And true or false, we don't really have a choice with this because this project is halfway down the road. And, you know, all the work that's Dan has done would be for naught if we don't support this, correct?
Right, so if you miss the deadline of May 13th, then we lose our place in the line of funding for the project on the state transportation improvement program, the TIP.
And how would
That's
how would we have paid for this? Did we not get these ARPA funds
We would have had to call a special town meeting,
and appropriate the funds?
Yeah.
And take a loan or something?
or take it out of capital stabilization.
I guess we're lucky we got the ARPA funds. Okay.
Any other thoughts, questions, or comments on this?
No.
Alright, excellent. Next one we have is communications, portable radios. This was a request from the fire department for in the tune of $17,400. We had no questions last time on this. KP, do you have any questions on this?
No, I have a comment.
Okay,
It's a no-brainer, let's pay it.
okay. Anyone else have any additional comments or questions?
No.
Alright, the next one we have is the crack ceiling for Pinecrest. I don't think we had any, we talked with Travis, it was in the minutes, some of the detailed pieces of the conversation. But essentially he's asking for $50,000 to keep and extend the use of the road after their last project on the road, to extend the life. Any questions?
Yeah, why don't we pay for that out of chapter 90 money?
Right now, it doesn't look like we have any chapter 90 money left over from the season. We do have we do have a notice from the Mass Department of Transportation that we'll be getting $354,000 of chapter 90 in the spring. That has still to go through the legislative process.
Additional chapter 90 money?
That's our usual number.
Oh, okay, so that's just the annual appropriation?
Yeah.
Okay,
There is some supplemental chapter 90 money in a bill that the governor filed for winter and for extra money for chapter 90, but we haven't seen that yet.
Okay.
I think when Travis talked last time, he had mentioned that they haven't been budgeting for crack sealant. They've just been trying to do the rest of the road pavement management plan. They haven't been putting, a lot of towns don't put money specifically aside all the time for crack sealant.
Right.
I would think we should consider doing that going forward, cause it's going to keep coming up. Today it's Pinecrest, tomorrow it's gonna be Pitcherville, the next day it's gonna be somewhere else.
It's a good thought, Mike.
Yeah, well, what do I know?
Alright, Lombard Road reconstruction, 575. Any comments or questions on this?
Oh, what happened with crack sealing?
Oh, I'm sorry, we can go back to crack sealant, my bad, I was
Why don't we
jumping on.
pay for it out of the forthcoming funds? which is designed to pay for that kind of stuff.
Well, I think the forthcoming funds that he was talking about is chapter 90 that we've
Yeah.
already pre-appropriated for next year based on our road plan.
So we have no free chapter 90 coming this year?
Well, if you look at the if you look at the capital plan, the 350 is dedicated to the maintenance of your road system. So it's money that's already spoken for. It's
Yeah, but for
supplemented,
what?
it's supplemented with free cash, or proposed to be supplemented by free cash for an extra 100,000, so you have 450 going into roads.
I mean, we have more roads repaired than we can afford to do, right?
Right.
But I guess I don't understand why we wouldn't bundle the 50,000 in with that 450,000 worth of road repair. It's road repair. No? Yes?
I think they're afraid it would take away from the other projects. So what they have right now, so
Just
this
gonna
is,
push those projects out.
yeah, so this is the budget for FY23. They have on here for DPW, let's see, 65,000, mini excavator, road repair, 350, additional road repair, 100. No, it doesn't tell me specifically though. I'm sorry, I thought it was gonna the specific road plan, not there. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, you do have a 5-year road plan.
Okay. So so the 450 is already accounted for, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Do we know on what?
According to, hold on, pulling up now.
While you're doing that, what happens next year when some other road needs $50,000 worth of sealant and we don't have that, we don't have this extra cash floating around? So to KP's point, you know, we really should be budgeting for this. This shouldn't be coming out of found money. This should, because this is something that should be part of the road plan, not, oh shit, we have money, now we can seal something.
Right. I agree with what Mike's saying, and I understand that, you know, this isn't like the Lombard Road project, right? The Lombard Road project was something we knew about, we tried to get funds for, we tried to fund, we tried to get grants, we weren't getting enough chapter 90 money to do it, so we just couldn't do it, right? Crack sealing is something that should be planned for year after year after year. I mean, it's just it's like maintenance. So I guess I don't understand why we wouldn't include that 50,000 in our regular annual work to maintain those roads. But, and I don't expect you to have the answer for that, but.
So the last, assuming this is relatively up to date, so this is FY22 to FY26 road plan. This was updated last March, so do you know if there was a newer one updated, David?
No.
Okay, so this one has on it Thompson Road, 237,000 to reclaim and pave with 3 inches of hot mix asphalt, add berm. Cruise Road, estimated 204K, reclaim and pave with 2 inches of hot mix asphalt, add berm. And Route Road, estimated 83K, full road.
Okay.
And that's probably, that already looks like it's over the 4, that looks like it's coming closer to 500,000 for that. Okay. There any more questions on crack seal and Pinecrest before I move?
Well, what's our final disposition of it? Are we saying?
What did it score?
Oh, I'm sorry. $75. Okay, any more questions on the crack seal and Pinecrest? Do you have any more, Kiki?
Nope.
Okay, so now the next one is the Lombard Road reconstruction 575. There any questions on this, or thoughts?
Comment.
Yes.
It's a no-brainer, we can't get it funded elsewhere, let's do it.
Agreed.
Any other thoughts, comments?
No.
Questions, okay. Alright, next we have the Agri metal blower. The question we had was just, so we had seen invoices, David, attached to the actual application, and we were just wondering what the final actual cost was for the project.
But the accountant can find no expenditures on this project.
Well, it's cause we
Yeah.
haven't paid for it,
Okay.
So how do we possess a thing without paying for it?
and do we have a PO?
I don't think we do purchase orders here in Hubbardston, I
Okay.
haven't seen one.
Okay,
But they said it's sitting in the garage, right?
we have possession,
Yeah,
Yeah,
friendly vendor.
friendly vendor. So the invoice we have is this, it's
Friendly
the
vendor who wanted it off his books.
Yeah.
$7,675. I guess our question was just, is that the actual amount at the end of the day?
That's gonna be the actual amount at the end of the day.
Okay, so.
What is it?
$7,675. So I will update my books.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions on that though? KP, did you have any questions on the agri-metal blower?
I have a takeaway, I'd like to know how we have possession of this thing sitting in our barn before we've,
I think the,
Paid for it or done
I think the
anything.
select board gave the green light to this project.
select board gave the green light to this project to fund through ARPA?
Yeah.
I don't recall that. Do you recall that, select board member?
I do not. I recall the conversation being with Travis when he presented it. We were originally looking to see if there were additional funds available, perhaps through the reserves, and whether they qualified. We talked about potentially seeing about ARPA funds, but I do not recall the board saying move yet. So, might have been a misinterpretation.
We'll check the record.
Okay. Alright. Any other questions or comments?
Well, before we move off of that, do we think that that impacts our decision here, that this is something that's already been acquired?
Well, I think at this point we own an item. I think, did Travis say last time that he's already been using it?
No, he did not say that.
Okay, I couldn't remember if that piece came up.
Well, it impacts my opinion of the whole process, I think it stinks a little bit, I don't know, I don't recall authorizing taking possession of that thing.
It's a dollar amount on this, it's $7,600.
7675, yep.
Yep.
I don't know how we got it, or who approved it, or who authorized it to become in our possession.
It does leave a little bit of a bad taste.
Yeah, definitely leaves a bad taste, I mean, I approve the project, I think
Why
we
don't
need
we
it.
asterisk it and move on?
I'm sorry?
Why don't we asterisk it?
Oh, asterisk it. I
put
was
an
like, what are you
asterisk.
saying to me, Susan?
Asterisk it next to it and
Well, what are we
move on- and move
asterisking
on.
it for, I mean,
Well, I'm hearing that perhaps some members of the committee are having second thoughts on the project, so perhaps we should put it
No,
aside.
I don't think it's that at all. I think,
Oh, then what is it?
I think it's, I think we approved the project.
We did.
We just would like to know how we got into the situation where it's sitting in possession of Hubbardston unpaid already,
With funds not yet
with
appropriated.
funds not yet appropriated. That is, I'm no lawyer, but that's not a thing I think we as a town should be doing.
Well,
I agree. I support the project,
I'll check into it.
I understand the need for the project, I think we should get the blower
After we pay for it.
after we pay for it.
Alright, let me check in with Travis and find out.
Not sure I like the process of acquiring it, in my opinion. Chris, you got anything more you
No,
want to
I,
add to that?
I feel the same way, and because for me, it impacts some of the criteria we use for rating, because if we already have this thing and it's sitting there and somebody already had a purchase plan, why does it get submitted to ARPA?
Right.
And especially when it's not clear that the select board pulled it out of the order from the ARPA committee, which the select board can do, they can do pretty much whatever
well, I
they
think
want
we
on
don't
this.
know, and that's why
Right.
I'm suggesting
Yeah.
we put an asterisk next to it and move on and get some more information.
Okay, so according to the minutes of the select board on December 13th, 2021, that's when it came up. So, okay, anyway, DPW director contacted Chair Gallant to discuss the agri-metal blower that he saw in another town, felt it might be useful, asked him to get the information to the board, and he sent the information to the board. The chair stated that when they did an assessment for senior housing at the town pit, a few things came up, so this was going to help address that. Getting an education on what it is to cost to get the street rid of street sweeping and catch basin debris. There are certain exemptions from the Mass DEP, but there's still costs involved. Director Brown also asked other towns what they did with their sweepings and how much it cost. The agri-metal blower he has written about is one of the things that he found out about. Chair Galante read the reasons for this blower in the paper, so we already talked about the reasons. Director Brown stated the DPW doesn't have the money in their budget, and was there anything the select board could do? ATA Nixon stated that it would definitely save money. Chair Gallant asked if ATA Nixon had any idea to where the money could come from. ATA Nixon stated it could come out of ARPA, or Director Brown could ask the Finance Committee for a reserve fund transfer. Cost of the blower is approximately $8,000. Member Monroe asked how much is in the reserve fund and have any funds been taken out. ATA Nixon stated it's $30,000. Nothing's been taken. Member Monroe remembered there being talk about taking monies out of reserve fund for the road study or to have a consultant help us. Chair Gallant stated that the town paid $15,000 to file for the reportable condition, so we're just gonna let's see. Once they have the committee together, they'll look over the request. Do they just bring the recommendations to the select board? Is there a process to go through? ATA Nixon stated they would bring them to the select board, who would then either agree or disagree with their suggestion. The town already has half the ARPA funds. Okay, Member Perego stated he has a couple questions about the machine. First, where does it blow this material? Chair Gallant said he asked the same question, and he deferred to the director as he doesn't want to misspeak. Member Perego asked what about the catch basins. Member Monroe stated that the town usually hires out and pays to have catch basins cleaned, so this will save money. Member Young also questioned where all the gunk from the catch basin goes, and Chair Gallant stated there are questions for Director Brown. Member Perego asked if there was any feedback onto the brine the town put on the roads. Member Young stated there was a lot of positive comments. Direct questions to Director Brown, that he would let Director Brown know that the Brown has recommended this go to ARPA, and Chair Galante will rely any information he gets. End of topic.
I don't hear an approval for it in there.
Do not see one. So, okay. So that was December 13th minutes. I'll reference that in the minutes. Okay. Anything else on the agri-metal blower?
No.
What's the conclusion? What's the conclusion you came to there?
That we're moving on to the next item.
And we're gonna figure out why we have the agri blower and how we got it.
Well, I think maybe what we do, Chris, when we come back.
Is that within the responsibility of the ARPA committee?
I don't think it is. I think
don't
it's in the
think it is
responsibility
either.
of Monday night's meeting.
I think it's
But-
something the select board
But
can
if
do.
if it's a reservation that the APRA committee has, we could hold off on approving that as one of the things to move forward with and send it to questions to the full select board.
Okay.
Would be my thought.
Well, and ultimately, we're not really approving, we're just making a recommendation for the select board to approve.
Correct. So, but that could influence whether it's recommended or not. Okay, so if we're good with that one, the next one we have here is the Ragged Hill Road Habitat NCM home builds. So we had lots of discussion about this last time. This project ranked relatively high. It came in at a 69.
There is an article for CPA funds, the same amount on annual town meeting warrant.
Okay.
Any thoughts, questions, or concerns? KP?
I don't wanna pay it.
Okay.
We've already donated the land to this project, which was what, about $25,000? They're going for CPA funds, which will probably get approved for $25,000. And ARPA funds are supposed to be used to do the most good for the most people.
Right.
I don't see how building a
Single home.
single home for one family, you know, God bless the family, nothing personal against them, helps the greater community.
What did the applicant say in terms of that particular criterion.
Oh, on the application?
Yeah.
Furthermore, the house is going to get built regardless of if we give them $0 or the money we've already given them.
Mhm.
The only consolation is Habitat for Humanity may not
Right.
consider Hubbinston for future projects because, in my humble opinion, we signed up for way more money than we could possibly raise for this project.
Please describe what, if any, community needs will be addressed by this project. The need for affordable housing in Hubbardston, which only increased during the COVID pandemic, will be addressed by this project. Who will benefit from this project? Families earning less than 60% of area median income currently living in housing that does not meet their needs due to size, cost, accessibility, or safety. In addition, the town will benefit from increased tax revenue from the property, as well as the community involvement in the building project. What is the estimated number of people in the community who will be served by this project? The entire community can be involved in building the home, and one family will be moving into the home, and their lives will be dramatically changed through this opportunity. Family selected includes a mom with 4 children, 2 of whom will be living in the home full-time. One family member requires wheelchair accessibility in the home. What else have we got? Alright, is this project already underway or ongoing? Project began with site work in the summer of 2021, and we are at the mid-build point of the home construction. And in reverse order, please identify the problem that your proposed project is trying to solve. The Hubbardston Housing Production Plan, approved by the Select Board in 2019, defines the town's strategy for planning, developing, and progressing towards the affordable housing goal of 10%. Blah, 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 blah. Almost a third, 31.5% of Hubbardston homeowners and 83.5% of renters are cost burdened, paying more than 30% of their income towards housing expenses. So I guess the push for this individual project is to help the town meet its affordable housing goal. That's what the applicant says.
Any other thoughts, questions, or anything else you wanna talk about on this one?
And that scored a 69 out of 100.
I will agree, it helps the town
Yep.
reach that goal, but it's not a sustainable way to achieve that goal. No way is it sustainable. We got lucky with ARPA funds. I think the project bit off way more than they can chew for town donations. We've donated the land. I'm going to support CPA paying $25,000 for it. I think we've been more than generous with this project, and we have other needs that'll serve more people in the community than the one family.
Well, that's not what our scoring says.
Well, obviously, there's 5 people that did scoring. That's what my scoring says. I think my scoring is gonna be quite an outlier to everybody else's scoring based on these top projects that I'm seeing. Which is fine, that's why we're a committee.
Any other discussion on this? I think one of the other things we talked about last week, if I remember correct, was the difference of waiting for CPC to see if they would fund, see if that article gets approved at annual town meeting prior to necessarily moving this, whether we hold off on potentially moving this project forward and wait until see what happens at annual town meeting, see if it gets approved, or whether we move this forward and move with the 25,000. The discussion we had, I think, was with CPC, there's certain buckets of money, and one of the buckets is housing. That's one of the only things you can spend that bucket on is housing, and there, as far as we knew, although there was some debate whether or not there were other projects in the pipeline that were going to be coming for that money, for the housing piece. And we talked about potentially, depending on how this goes, maybe pushing it back to David's team and asking them to come back to us instead with more things for, if this passes CPC, with CPC article, more so asking him to come back with a request for costs for like remediation for the site so that they can move forward with the housing project that they've been working on the study. You're all looking at me,
I
I
don't
assume
understand what you're talking
you're following, no, you're not.
No,
The gravel pit site that we had the issue, so the whole reason the Agri metal blower came up was because a couple things were happening at that location, including the, police shooting with their, the ammo piece that contaminated the site as
The
well as
lead,
the
yeah.
street sweepings. So the Agri metal blower came up as a potential solution, so we don't have to deal with as much street sweepings as we currently do, so we don't have to worry about dropping them in a particular place. But the other thing that came out of that was also, we're currently in the process, and we've been talking at several select board meetings about following the next steps with filing with the state DEP and so forth to begin cleaning up those pieces. So because that is a potential site, I believe it all came up because Alice came to the select board, because Alice is the chair of the planning board, and the planning board is also the affordable housing committee in town, and they said, you know, we've been looking at this and we've been, you know, doing a study and so forth, and we got now mixed up with these cleanups. Yes, David?
So planning board's meeting tomorrow, and they're gonna be talking about this particular, project. I think there's gonna be some, changing of thinking going on.
What project are we talking about?
The gravel pit.
Affordable housing, acquisition,
The what?
affordable housing land acquisition,
Okay.
The gravel pit?
the gravel pit. So, I would wait to see what the planning board has to say about
So
it.
if I could ask a clarifying question, is the house that we're talking about this $25,000
Yeah.
for this particular family,
Yeah.
is that on the land that we had to pay extra money to make it livable, as in removing the lead and stuff, or is that a separate?
Separate project.
Separate project.
Right, so I would rather see the 25 grand going towards making that usable than going towards a single family, which we have already funded a significant amount of money and potentially the CPA can fund. And in hindsight, I think the scoring, I would rather have had this conversation first before scoring, hearing other people's opinions and working through the problems a little bit.
Well, again, the scoring piece is meant as a tool for us to make
To start.
decisions and
Sure.
conversation, so.
well,
So,
if we're going to ignore the scores and start over, is that what we're doing?
No, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying I think.
That's what
I
I'm
think
feeling, I'm just saying.
Maybe what you're feeling, but what I'm saying
That's
is
what
I
I'm
think,
feeling.
we should have probably just had a similar discussion before going through the scoring exercise.
And as the member at large, you're obviously at a disadvantage to all this stuff. I don't know how much you watch meetings online or come to town meetings, but,
Time.
right, nobody does, so.
I go to town meetings,
Yeah, right, yeah, I see you there, but.
one of the few.
Chris?
yeah, well, this is certainly an item where there's a bunch of questions still, like, what's actually gonna happen with the different CPC buckets, but really, my question and comment is, what is our end game for tonight? Are we trying to identify some out of the top, kind of that top tier that we can go for to make a recommendation on? Cause there are some that I think we're in pretty clear agreement on, like some of the road specific ones, and advancing those to at least start clearing the mud a little bit, I think is helpful.
Yep.
But where I think we run into a problem is if we start looking at just questioning the entire process, I think we end up restarting a lot of stuff, which I don't think gets us to where we need to be. So I guess I wanted to see what the thoughts are related to that and where pragmatically we're going tonight.
Well, I think as I stated a couple times now, the goal for tonight, or at least my goal for tonight, is to continue going through these top ranked projects for discussion. Remember, KP wasn't here last time, so it's the first time he's having to be able to share his opinions on them. And then go back and figure out which ones we want to advance to the select board right away, which ones we need more information, more time, and where we want to go from there. To your point, yes, there are a few projects that seem to have come up that KP seems to jump on the ranks of what we had last week, which is no questions, no brainer, good project, let's move forward and submit that. So I'd like to continue going on down this line here for the ones that we think, you know, are yeses and we move forward. Some of these have time constraints on them, right? So we're gonna get to it's either the ambulance or the fire truck that's on the next year's capital plan, and this is the budget process. So moving something forward or not, these are important things we need to decide if we're gonna push forward to the select board or not, because it's got a time constraint to it. So I'd like to continue moving forward on these next few items, and you know, we don't have to say yes to all of them tonight. If there's a couple that we are all in consensus on and can move forward, that's great. I think the select board will be elated to start spending money and have some projects that might take some time. So, with that being said, are there any additional comments at this time for the Ragged Hill project? Are we good to move to the next?
Ragged Hill project, refresh my memory. Which one is
The
it?
habitat one we were just talking about.
Are there any more?
Any more comments on the Ragged Hill Road habitat project?
No.
Okay.
So when we say we're putting an asterisk on something or we're starring it for additional information, does that mean we're looking to get it to a place where we're having a vote on it tonight, or does that mean we're holding it for the future so we can collect additional information? Because on some of them, like the habitat, additional information I think makes a difference in how some of us are gonna vote on it.
So we have 4 more items to get through tonight. So once we get through the 4 items, we will go down each item and say, are we ready to move on this or not ready to move? If we're ready to move, we advance it to the select board next week and they say yay or nay, we're gonna fund this project, this is exciting. The other projects, we can decide if we have more questions or if we wanna just throw it in the mix and come back. So, the next item we have here is the Town of Hubbardston Essential Employee Premium Pay. And David, in your memo it says, I will have Ryan respond to this issue. Should we be expecting a response from Ryan in writing or?
Yeah, so, this is gonna be broken into 2 parts. There's a union component and there's the non-union personnel. The union probably going to negotiate for an amendment or a change to their collective bargaining agreement. So that's a matter of negotiations. There's some numbers out there, there's some percentages out there. I think the focus is gonna be on who was around here at the, we'll take my case for example. I was not around for most of the pandemic. There's no expectation that I would receive any kind of premium pay for my service. My service was in another town. If they're gonna pay me, it's gonna be them. Same with employees who come and go. They've not been here. Are they eligible to receive a premium or not? I would tend to think that people who have just been recently hired and were not instrumental in getting the town through the pandemic are not eligible for a premium. So there's probably gonna be a flat percentage recommended for the union employees who qualify, and there's probably gonna be a dollar amount associated with the union employees who qualify. That's where I think that's going.
Okay, so we need more information from Ryan to break it down.
Yeah.
Okay, and then my only concerns is, I attached as one of the documents today, was just the piece from the, who put this through here? The Executive Office Admin Finance with providing premium pay to essential workers, that little cheat sheet that was up there. Premium pay must serve workers who earn at or below 150% of the state or county's average, or are not exempt from Fair Labor Standards Act overtime rules. So wouldn't that exclude any of the salaried employees?
Yep.
So salaried employees being fire chief or anything else, you're not getting premium pay. And then if workers do not meet requirements, recipient must provide written justification of how it meets its needs, but I think that would have to be something pretty specific. Pay can be flexibly awarded up to $13 per hour in installments or lump sums to hourly, part-time, salaried, non-hourly workers, may not exceed $25K for any single worker during the program. So those are the provisions. So I guess I know I'm gonna have a lot of specific questions and need someone like Ryan to walk through. I mean, we got time, we can always pay it back, right? So like, if we decide in 6 months from now we wanna do this, we can always do the back calculations, but my concern is just, I think if we're ever audited, I think this is the piece where, while it's within the original scope of what they envisioned for this program, I think this is where it gets dicey of, did we follow the rules?
Well, I would expect that when he came up with the number, he did some sort of a spreadsheet based on those formulas. That's what I would be looking to see from him.
Is the spreadsheet?
Yeah. Basically, who's getting what their compensation is, how it maps to those parameters, and you know, that it basically makes it all fit.
Okay.
So what's our confidence
maybe
level
some
in this
narrative.
$60,000 value? High, low?
What's our confidence in it?
Yeah.
I'd say it's high. My confidence is high.
Or is that just the amount we're saying, here's what can be used for this,
Well, let's see, where's his
premium pay.
application? Let's see what his application said.
I mean, I guess my thought is I would need more information before I felt comfortable.
Yeah.
What he said.
So I don't, I guess I'm not comfortable putting this forward yet.
Estimated number of people, approximately 30 employees. Final report will be created before any funds are dispersed. So the milestones would be approval, complete application process, payout compensation, so it looks like, the employees are given a reasonable time frame to apply for premium pay, so there's an application process that accompanies this. Which he said it was attached, but I don't.
Remember, he did send an email separately at one point.
Yeah, the attachment,
That I disseminated.
the application is floating around somewhere that isn't attached to this, so I'm expecting that based on his, okay, basis of cost estimate is preliminary cost estimate, best guess, so he needs the applications to be completed before before those types of awards could be made, and so this is, I think the total funding would be maximum of 60,000 and would be, and maybe less than that.
So I guess the question is, do we think it's reasonable to require those applications to be completed ahead of time? Or is it fair to just say, here's the maximum amount, don't award more than this?
I think it's totally fair to ask for the applications to be submitted beforehand. We have this money for a few years. The calculation's not really gonna change, right? Cause COVID's come, COVID's gone, so the period to be determined is done. So you have, yeah, allegedly. So that period range is over. So at this point, it's just who's eligible and what's the calculation piece. And to KP's point earlier, you know, when we're coming down to projects that we want to fund as much as we can, I would like this number to be as accurate as we can. So instead of saying, okay, hold up $60,000, I'd rather say, submit the paperwork, get everything in, and then we'll see what we're fund. Because here's the thing too, we could say 60,000, what happens when only 3 people apply? May not be $60,000 most likely.
Well, yeah,
Or it could
but
be
we're
more.
gonna have, but everybody's gonna get a second shot at the apple if we have excess funds, right?
That's true. That's true. But we could say, you know, we could say this project needs more information, right? So keep it in line in the order where it is, and just, you know, say get those applications out, get them in, and get us an actual calculation and do a presentation, and then we'll go for it.
How long do we think it's gonna take for that to happen, though?
I don't know, but again, it's you know, to David's point, right? Like, we know who the roster is of people who are currently employed or were employed. We can always reach out to people if they've gone, if we want to. We want to, being you, not me. And, you know, see where we go from there, but
He thinks that the approval would be on April 1st, the completed application process would be June 1st, and the payout based on the applications, would happen on July 1st. So that's the timeline that he projects.
Yeah, but that's not gonna be realistic, cause David's not gonna have time in his days with getting everything ready for town meeting and his short hours to be able to get it done, and Ryan's not back till May 2nd.
I am reading what is on
I
his application.
appreciate that, Susan, but I disagree with its likelihood of completion within that time parameter.
Ryan is on his way back to the United States, he's in
As we speak.
Qatar right now.
Yeah.
I will try to reach out to him and try to get a better focus on this particular issue.
Okay.
I agree that since it's gonna be part of the union contract negotiation with the fire department, at the very least, we should, go a little slow on this one. Not that people don't deserve the premium for working in the middle of a pandemic, but wanna make sure that we have enough to go around for everybody.
So, okay. Does anyone have any other thoughts on premium pay at this time?
No.
Excellent. Funds for fire department. So we had asked David and you had given us some additional documents here. We wanted to split up, we wanted to do two things. Number one was to split the ambulance and the fire truck request. Number two was to get more information because we felt like we were missing a lot of details, especially with the vagueness of what a fire truck was. Cause there's lots of fire trucks that are red, but some of them have water, some of them have ladders. We weren't sure which red truck we were gonna be asking for. So it looks like on the revised application here, so the first one is for the fire truck, in the coming 3 fiscal years. Necessary replacement became more pressing during COVID, using ARPA funds to offset the costs. Let's see, does it tell us what the project is though? Town's fire project. Performance would be measured by carefully monitoring, Alright, David, can you tell us what fire truck they're looking for?
Alright, so we're looking at a fire truck that was, on the capital plan for FY '24 for $550,000. Fire trucks are very expensive, this has gotta be a small one, at that price.
But what type of truck?
It would be a pumper,
It's a pumper?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so can I ask questions? I mean, don't we depreciate these things and have a plan to replace this equipment every so often?
Yep.
And you just said we're planning to replace this anyways? Forthcoming?
FY '24, so 2 fiscal years from now.
Okay, so if we got a plan to replace it, is there an immediate need? Do we have a defunct fire truck that's not operational?
Not that I'm aware of.
Then I would have to ask the question, why are we considering pushing this 2 years forward with ARPA funds that can be used elsewhere when we already have a plan to replace this piece of equipment?
Ryan is thinking about your future debt structure. He wants the general fund, he wants the debt service to be no more than 3% of your operating budget. You're somewhere around 2% at this point. So he's looking at the number of big ticket items coming up in the next 5 years. Buildings, trucks, other improvements to the town for which you can reasonably expect to borrow and probably won't have the ready cash for. He's concerned about the shape of borrowing 10 years out, that it will exceed the 3% of the debt service limit that would be ideal for the town. And he's recognizing that there's probably zero chance for any kind of debt exclusion. So he's trying to move these projects forward and pay for them mostly by cash in order to create future debt capacity within the levy. So this is a strategic repositioning of large ticket items in order to make future debt manageable within the levy limit.
Okay, so there's no immediate need for this equipment, it's all budgeting. We have a DPW truck that we flipped over.
Yep.
That isn't even in scope of this whole project here. That's probably gonna need to be replaced.
Insurance should cover that though.
Plus
We'll have a
whatever
deductible.
deductible,
which is,
Usually 1 to 2.
$500 to $1,000 at most.
what if the thing's totaled? Is it totaled, do we know?
It's total.
Still same.
Okay.
That's why we have good insurance, KP. It just
Okay.
means our rates are gonna go up.
No, I don't see the need to bring this forward. I've got a stack of more pressing issues here.
Alright. Any other thoughts on that? Questions?
What did it score?
Fire truck, looking for a sheet. Well, fire truck and ambulance were together, remember, cause they weren't delineated.
Right, yeah.
So together it was a 64.
Okay.
Alright, so the other project we have here was the ambulance. David, can you tell us about that request?
Alright, so the ambulance was slated for 2026 at $350,000. That would be a full-service ambulance, the second one in your fleet. Again, for the purposes of managing future debt burden, Ryan moved this forward,
And it was originally planned for what year?
2026.
We got more pressing issues. Can't support it. Can't. I love our fire department. I think they do a great job, but if we got these things on the books, we planned for, I don't see it. Sorry.
Any other thoughts, questions on the ambulance?
I'm assuming that, split up, the, projects would score, we would score each identically. In other words, if the projects together were scored at 64, I would score each of them individually at 64, absent any revoting or rescoring, which I don't think is appropriate at this point.
Anything else on ambulance? Okay, alright, and the last one we have here is the electronic sign. So as I mentioned earlier, because I did not think ahead enough, I could not have Katie come tonight, cause then Katie, Chris and I would equal a quorum. So, Katie did, answer the questions that we had asked her, or had for her last time in email, so I did not forward that, cause it came today during work, but I will share that real quick here. And I did have an opportunity to talk to her, so I might be able to answer some questions, if they come through. So here we go here. Let's see, the lifelong subscriptions included with the cost of the sign, no extra cost for that. So the data subscription was one of the questions. When I talked to Katie.
That's free?
Yeah, it's part of the cost.
Okay.
So for the extent of the life of the sign's covered within a 5-year warranty for everything, and then after 5 years, it's covered for, I think, functionality, but parts you'd have to cover. There will be a remote login to manage the sign, just like the town website. Each person would have their own login. I would like the town administrator, town clerk, and the special events person to have logins. If more are needed, we can add more, but if 3 of us have access, then if emergency comes up, someone can add the message. Talked to Katie today, so she said you do not have to be physically here to put the message on the board, you can upload it from anywhere. This sign won't just be for special events. Any info needs to go on there can and will, things like town meeting, don't forget to vote, road closures, Hubbinston Fair, haunted hayride, kindergarten signups, etc. Current sign is very limited on what it can do be done due to the lack of letters, size, and fact that you manually have to change the letters out. The only 2 people that currently do it are Sandra from Parks and Rec and herself. If Sandra wants a login, they could also add that. I talked to Katie, she said right now what happens with the sign is it's physically manual, like there's parts that are like 30 and 40 pounds of it that you have to lift up and hold on to in order to insert the insert pieces. You're climbing through the snowbanks to do it. You only have so many letters, so she can't even like add a phone number, there's no space.
Taking all the
There's
sport
no
out of
things.
this.
She can't change it on a regular basis. She's looked around in other communities, so this has not been out to bid yet or anything. This is just, one company that had the sign she wanted, she got the estimate from, that includes everything. She said the ones she was looking at, other ones did not include the data piece. There is a cost that they try to include with that 48.5, which is the cost of digging the trenches and doing the electrical work. That I think she worked, David, she said, with you pretty closely to try to come up with that estimate piece for it. But that's where the 48.5, 45.8, 48.5, don't even know my numbers anymore, came from.
Where should this sign
44.
go?
It would go very close to where the old one currently is, and the old one is on,
Charlie
Good,
Clark
right.
corner,
yes,
right up there by
By the fire station?
the little,
And how big is
Gazebo
the sign?
I think the specifications are in the application.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were, I don't remember what they were,
Yeah, I
but they
just-
were.
Don't have it handy.
It's cause no one lugs around the trees like I do.
Yeah.
Make
Just
fun of
a-
my tree.
Just the
This can carry
liability
a lot of trees.
exposure makes my hair curl,
Just liability exposure
yeah,
of the new sign or the current sign.
with the current sign.
It's only a problem if someone drops it.
It's true of everything.
Let's see. I'm sorry, I took so long finding this. Size, okay. I think it says here, let's see. That's a 3x7, so I'm assuming that's 3 feet by 7 feet. There are a couple options here, let's see. Sign has a pitch of 10 millimeters with 3-inch high characters, LED RGB color. Cabinet styles, double face, matrix size is 90 by 180, and a viewing area of 3 feet high by, I assume that's 6 feet wide, but it says 6 inches there. Overall size 41 by 7 feet 3 inches by 5 feet deep. 5 inches deep, sorry. Having trouble with their things. Sign will communicate with wireless, life of sign, cellular, date plan. I assume that means data plan. Not Katie's writing, that was the quote.
Yep.
So, she also said that in the past when they've tried to get this to pass, neighbors were mostly concerned because they didn't want the light shining into their homes, so this one dims at night.
Mm-hmm.
So it should cut back that. She said it doesn't scroll or flash, it has like a town meeting and then it kind of dissolves and comes back. I asked her if it was like the one in Westminster that always has the dad jokes on the way to Route 2.
going down the hill,
Yeah.
so you're approaching the light and you're reading the joke and you almost have an accident?
No,
Yeah.
before you get to the hotel.
Yeah.
So, but it kind of flashes over like that, so. Are there any questions or concerns or anything people would like to discuss?
No.
I like the project. I think it's a worthwhile project. I think there's a need for an electronic sign. I think the cost is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know anything about electronic signs. I don't know why it's costing $48,000 to put something up like that. Is this a prevailing wage type of thing because we're paying funds or why, or, I mean,
It would be subject to procurement and, yeah, you'd be paying prevailing wages.
For the electrical work, cause I think, but the electrical work's minimal, it looks like of the project, the electrical work's only 2,500. So the majority of this, I think, is the,
Well, don't
Craft
forget
and
the data. They bundled the
yeah.
data plan into this thing.
I know when the EDC went out and just quoted out, just welcomed Hubbinston signs with business listings on it, the pricing was absurd, and that was even looking at 3 or 4 different quotes. Just for unlit, just carved signs, they were thousands and thousands of dollars.
really. I don't know, and I don't,
alright, so
maybe
any,
I'm all wet, but I think that's a ridiculous price to be paying for this. I love the project, I love the idea, I think there's a need for it, but
Is
That's our last one on our hierarchy, isn't it?
yes, it is.
Yeah, okay.
Is there a safeguard that we can put into that for pricing, or does that just happen by the way procurement is, because there's gonna have to be 3 bids, right?
Yeah, it's
Alright.
between 10 and 50,000. So yeah, I don't know, I mean, we can, between us and the select board, I imagine we can always put a provision and say you've been approved for funds no more than this, if you spend less, it comes back.
Yeah.
Well, that is true, because we're just recommending the project, we're not actually approving it.
Yeah,
So
but then if
the
it, I
select
mean,
board-
if she goes, if the town goes out to bid, and let's say this gets approved by us or recommended to be approved, and goes to the select board and moves forward, and let's say the quotes come back at 50,000 instead of 48,400, then I think they just come back to at least the select board for a blessing of the additional 1,006 for them to move forward. Or as with any project. I think if the amount changes and ends up higher than what it's approved, like anything else, you go to town meeting, you have a budget, right? You have to go back, you have to get additional approval for the additional appropriation.
I guess my point there was that we're not really the backstop, the select board is, so we're really just talking about the worthiness of the project, and then it's up to the select board to actually administer it, because that's
Right,
past us.
but I think the idea behind the recommendation is that if we were the select board, we would vote yes, we would say, we're gonna do this, so that's the idea in terms of a recommendation.
Alright, is there anything else on that last one? So what I'd like to do is just go through each of these one at a time. If we have a motion to pass a particular project onto the select board, I'd entertain that motion. If we don't have a motion for that project to move forward at this time, we'll move on to the next one and see if we can't get at least a couple items here to move forward, understanding that some are gonna hang out for a little while longer. Is everyone okay with that plan?
Yes.
KP?
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you yet, okay. Alright, so the first project I have here is the Public Safety and Town Hall Feasibility Study, 65,500. Do I have a motion to forward this project along to the select board?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Susan, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Susan, a second to move the Public Safety Town Hall Feasibility Study for 65.5 to the select board. I'm gonna guess this one's gonna be a split vote potentially, so I'm gonna do roll call. Susan,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
KP,
No.
and Heather, yes. Alright, so with four to one, this item will pass on to the select board. Okay, the next item we have here is the Route 68 improvement easements for a total amount of $89,150. Do I have a motion to move this along to the select board?
So moved.
Okay, Susan made a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Christopher, so I have a motion by Susan, second for Christopher for the Route 68 improvement easements, $89,150 to move to the select board. I'm gonna do roll call again. Susan,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Mike,
Yeah.
KP,
Yes.
and Heather, yes. Alright, so that passes unanimously to move on. Next item I have here is communications, portable radios for $17,400. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Susan is making a motion to move this on the select board. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Mike. So I have a motion by Susan, second by Mike for the communication portable radios for $17,400. Susan,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
KP,
Yes.
and Heather is a yes. So that's unanimous that will move on to the select board as a recommendation. Next item I have is crack ceiling for Pinecrest for in the amount of $50,000. Do I have a motion to move this onto the select board?
So moved.
Okay, Susan motions. Do I have a second? I'll second that for a vote here. Or first of all, is there any discussion? Okay. Susan,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Mike,
No.
KP,
No.
and I'm going to go with a no. Alright, so that does not move at this time. Next thing we have here, Lombard Road Reconstruction Project, $575,000. Do I have a motion to move that onto the select board?
So moved.
Motion by Susan, second?
Second.
Okay, Mike, I have a second. Alright, I have a motion by Susan, second by Mike. Lombard Road Reconstruction Project 575, move on to the select board. Susan,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
KP,
Yes.
and Heather is a yes. So that moves on to the select board. Next item I have is Agri metal blower for $8,000. Do I have a motion to move this onto the select board?
So moved.
Motion by Susan, do I have a second?
Second.
Alright, I have a motion by Susan, a second by Mike, roll call, Susan.
Were you
Yes.
gonna have a discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry, is
Oh.
there any discussion on this?
Well, this is one of the ones that we talked about putting an asterisk on. Do we think that asterisk means that we put this to the vote tonight, or do we wait for the select board to opine in on that, or do we put some kind of condition on this? Because I agree with the conversation, there's something that doesn't feel great about it being here already and there not being approval, but I also hear the point that that's not really our job to police, and at the end of the day, it's not really a material amount to what we're working on anyways.
Well, I think the idea here is to decide what's gonna move on to the select board tonight, and then at that point, we can come back and figure out if it's still on the list. Do we wanna continue discussions, have another meeting, ask for more information, or so forth?
I imagine the select board's gonna have a lot of discussion about this anyways, even if it gets our recommendations, so.
Anything else? Alright, so we have a motion by Susan for the agri metal blower for $8,000 to move the select board, a second by Mike, roll call, Susan.
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
KP,
Yes.
Heather, yes. Alright, so that item moves on to the select board. Next item we have here is the Ragged Hill Road Habitat NCM home bill, $25,000. Do I have a motion to move this onto the select board?
So moved.
Motion by Susan, do I have a second? I will second that one for discussion. Opportunities, anyone have anything they'd like to add on this?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna call a vote. Susan,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Mike,
No.
KP,
No.
and I'm going to say yes. Alright, so that passes 3-2 to go to the select board. Next item I have here is Town of Hubbardston Essential Employee Premium Pay. Do I have a motion to send this along to the select board?
So
motion.
moved.
Okay. Mike made
I
a
will-
motion.
I will second.
Susan seconded.
You
Alright.
can't have all the fun.
Alright.
Yes, I can.
She can try. Susan,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
KP.
Yes.
Okay, and Heather is a no. Just change it up here. Alright, funds for the fire department ambulance. I have this as the amount of $350,000. Nope, it looks like ARPA requested, once you do the calculation, is $186. Do I have a motion to send the ambulance for the fire department at the amount of $186,000 to the select board?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Alright, any discussion? Alright, take a vote. Susan,
Yes.
Christopher,
No.
Mike,
No.
KP?
No.
And Heather, no. That one fails, 1 to 4. Alright, one of the last ones here, we have the funds for the fire department fire truck, and the total amount on that one, once we do the calculation, is $314,000. Do I have a motion to move the fire truck as a recommendation to the select board for $314,000?
So moved.
Motion by Susan, do I have a second?
Second.
Alright, motion and second made, any other discussion? Alright, Susan,
Yes.
Christopher,
No.
Mike,
No.
KP,
No.
Heather, no, so that one fails and does not go, 1 to 4. Alright, last item I have here is the electronic sign for $48,400, do I have a motion to send this on to the select board?
So moved.
Do I have a second? I will
Second.
oh, okay, go ahead, Mike, was that you?
Yeah.
Alright, second by Mike, alright, Susan,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
KP.
No.
And Heather is a yes. Alright, so that passes 4 to 1. Alright, so good news, we have our initial list of what's going on to the select board.
How much have we
How much have we spent?
recommended?
Oh, geez.
That's right. It's all about the dollars.
All
So
right.
how much dough do we have left?
Alright, let's see here. You're asking me to do math on the spot, Susan. This could be ugly.
Where's our spreadsheet?
Well, it's right here, but it's not in the thingamajiggy.
It's not on the thing.
Well, it is, but my battery's dying, so it's not gonna be for
Oh.
long.
Okay.
Let's see. Well, I guess
David's
the
all-
question is, do we need
David's
the,
all over it.
do
He's
we
doing
need,
it.
okay, I was gonna say, do we need the calculation right now, or are we good to hold till the next meeting, so.
Well, the suspense is killing me.
We need this, we need the amount now.
Right now.
Well, David's on it.
You're
Get
over
the-
Alright, let's
Late.
go through that, let's go through that
Yeah.
list that you just went through to forward along. It's the sign, it's the blower,
Fingers crossed that my battery
it's
doesn't
the
die.
Lombard Road, it's the communication radios,
Okay, the
it's
easements,
the feasibility study,
yeah,
and it's the easements.
yeah.
For a total of how many?
How many projects or how much money?
I'll have that
Six
information.
projects for how much money?
He's
David's
figuring
on it.
out.
Hold on.
Be sure to save before your battery dies.
It's on Google Drive. Does it automatically save?
Just save it to the cloud.
It is on the
It saves.
cloud. There's no save button on Google Drive, on Google Docs.
You want my floppy disk?
I don't have a floppy drive.
I see it right there.
It's a CD. Floppy drive is usually much
difference.
clunkier, square.
Alright, so I have a total of 1,000,005,
That's wrong.
That isn't right.
That's too much money.
that's too much money.
Alright,
We're already over. Throw all these away.
Yeah.
I have 864, 300.
I buy that.
that sounds about right, cause the fire truck and the ambulance didn't make it.
Okay. So at this point, we have our initial list of projects. We have more projects now we can go back and look at. So the question is, where do we wanna go from here? I assume the first answer is not a meeting next week, cause you're all meetinged out. We've done 3 meetings, 3 weeks in a row. So the select board meets on Monday. What do we wanna do do we wanna try to do a meeting the following week and review the rest of the applications? We could either do an initial meeting, go over our questions, or we could just invite the applicants for the second batch, cause most of the second batch, I think we had questions on almost every single one, for clarification, understanding, loss of revenue, what the project actually was, what they were trying to purchase and so forth. But, what is the will of the committee? I'm just the driver here.
This committee person is willing to meet next week, because I don't see any advantage to pushing this out.
Okay.
I'd like to do it after the select board.
Right.
Well, that'd be good, cause
That's
select
Monday.
board's on Monday, and
Yeah.
I can't do back to back in the same day.
So, yeah, next week or the week after, doesn't matter to me.
Okay, KP?
Yeah, I can meet next week.
Okay. Christopher, do you have availability to meet next week?
I might not be able to make Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, Wednesday would not be an ideal day for
Well,
me
every
either.
other week, Wednesdays, I cross them out of my calendar, just for you, KP.
Pick
Well-
another night.
That would also, because Wednesday is Lions, so that would also make a problem for some of those people appearing, so, isn't it?
Wednesday is Lions.
So what if we did,
So we wouldn't get some of the people who we wanna hear from.
so what about next Thursday night? Next Thursday night work?
The 24th?
Yes, why does that number keep flagging in my head? I'm probably triple booking myself, I do this frequently.
Fine with me.
Okay,
Works for me.
Christopher, you have a planning board meeting this week, I believe.
I know, but
Steve.
there's definitely there's definitely something on the 24th, I don't know what it is. My phone battery died, I can't look at my calendar. But,
Well, let's hope the child isn't trying to call us.
yeah,
Yeah. KP, Thursday work? Why don't we do this? Let's
Yeah,
initially
no,
plan
Thursday
on
work.
Thursday. I'll get an agenda, I'll get it posted just for shoots and giggles, and then if we need to make a modification because someone discovers there's a conflict, we can modify it, but at least we'll get something on the books.
Okay, what was that number, Mike, you had, 824 something?
864.5.
300.
Oh, I lied.
So 24th at 6:30.
Yes. Go with that. Does that work for you, David?
Yep.
Okay. So we have the remainder of the projects, and if I have where'd my list go? It looks like the other ones are, Hubbinston Lion Club, Laura Foley, Go Green Manufacturing, Hubbinston Economic Development, Here for You, Hubbinston Economic Development, Hubtown Diner, and the COA. So these are all people that I know we had questions on the additional applications. David, is it possible that you would be able to reach out to these folks and give them an early invite to next week's meeting?
Yep.
Just give us a few hours in the morning to make sure no one has any additional conflicts and we don't change the date.
Alright.
Okay, and then I will stick at the end, would you rather me stick them at the end, the Lions Club and the Keep Hubbardston Beautiful applications? I know the two of you wanted to step out when we had those two last pieces. Would you rather them at the beginning or the end?
End,
Okay. Okay, I'm just checking.
so I can take off.
Alright, so I will keep that in mind on the order. So we're all set, we have our initial recommendations. I will put something in writing and just send it out to the board so you see what I'm sending the select board. Next meeting date we're all set on, matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair, anyone?
Nope.
Okay, awesome, and adjournment, let's see, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Okay, it is 8:01.
Good work.
Well done.
Alright.
Can you run through that list of people I'm supposed to contact, please?
Yes, sir, so we have Hubbardston